Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. In this video, I'd like to discuss how people's attitude towards the virulence of the virus is completely wrong and how people need to actually start to pay attention to the real data. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So the problem we have in the UK at the moment is, although the government has ordered an effective lockdown, even though they don't like using the word, that's what it effectively is. It's not a complete lockdown, granted. The issue is that a lot of people, not the vast majority, but a lot of people are still not complying with it for a couple of reasons. First of all, people are still getting this idea that, oh, it's just a virus, a bit like the flu or something like that, or a cold. And they're just pointing to examples of people who've contracted it and suffered no ill effects. Oh, well, that's how it is for most people. Now, even when they accept that for vulnerable people, it can be more serious because people have, of course, died. You can't really deny that. These people are just thinking, well, it's not going to affect me because, you know, it's affecting the elderly, it's affecting those with underlying health conditions. I'm all right, which is a very selfish attitude to have, but a lot of people are very selfish. Also, even if they're not directly selfish, it may be just a stupid attitude to have because they may think, well, you know, keep the vulnerable people isolated. Why do I need to be isolated? I'm not going around seeing those people. But when you look at the reliable data, then it tells a different story. Now, first of all, we've just had the news this week that a 21-year-old in the UK, unfortunately, has died from the coronavirus, who had no underlying health condition. So first of all, it's blown out of the water the concept that if you are young and you do not have other health conditions, that you will be fine. You do not know that. We know that the majority will be fine. That's a statistical thing. There is no one person that can say, I will definitely be fine, because this blows that out of the water. Then the other thing about this mostly affecting the elderly. Now, this largely came from data that was incomplete. This is, again, a problem. In order to understand something like this, you need to have a decent knowledge of statistics, and the vast majority of people... This is what I don't understand. Actually, the vast majority of people do not have that level of mathematical knowledge, and yet the vast majority of people also accept that they're not very good at maths, but suddenly think that they can read charts. So what happened was, I'm going to put this chart up here. Now, this you'll see what this is going to show straight away. But the bits in green are, you know, for Italy, and it sort of looked like, you know, this was largely affecting the elderly. And then this is to do with contraction rates, not deaths. This is to do with, you know, how many people contract the virus. But Italy, just not as badly as in the UK, but mostly was testing people who were mostly affected by the symptoms. Very few countries have really done a proper testing program. To really be able to track this and beat this, you need to be testing everyone regularly. South Korea do this. South Korea have really taken on board the need to just test. Test, test, and test, as the World Health Organization said. Their data is therefore much more useful because they have not just tested the people who have contracted and developed very serious symptoms. They are testing everyone. You know, there are drive-through tests. You know, their phone booths have been turned into testing stations. They've really gone to town on this. And what you can see here is the rate of contraction is much, much higher for the young. So you look at this spike here, 29.9% of cases. This is corona cases. So this has got nothing to do with the demographics. We also know that the death rate in Italy was quite high because, you know, the population of Italy, it tends to be on the higher side. Mediterranean diet, they live forever. But this, because it's a proportion of cases, ignores that completely. So what we can see is that about 30% of young people in South Korea have contracted this virus. Whereas when you look at the elderly, the ones you would think have been most at risk, it's like, you know, for 60 to 69-year-olds, 12%, just under 6% for 70 to 79-year-olds, 80%, 80-year-old plus 3%, sorry. And, you know, and this, again, could be explained by the fact that these people are much less likely to get out and about and so on. So, again, it adds to the notion, as if it weren't obvious anyway, that if the young are the ones who are mostly contracting this in South Korea, well, they're the ones who tend to go out and about more and tend to be a bit more, have a feeling of invulnerability, that they're not going to be affected by it. Whereas if you're elderly, maybe you're a little, not so much paranoid, because in this particular case, I don't think you can be paranoid, but a little bit more cautious about things in general, and you tend not to go out as much as well. And it just shows the fact that the more vectors there are, you presenting, the more chance there is of this infection spreading. So, I mean, for example, yesterday, I had to go out, and I did have to go out. And I saw people, a lot of people walking around more than usual. As people have already pointed out, normally the British weather's a bit rubbish, and it's just been winter. We've only just come out of winter. It's now really sunny. A lot of people like it when it's sunny, so they're going out. But I didn't see like groups of kids or anything like that. It looked like family groups or individual people walking their dogs. So it all seemed fine, all very much in line with the government guidance there. But I'll tell you what I observed, which was really weird. So when you had people walking on the pavement and someone coming the other way, when they went past each other, I didn't see anyone make any attempts to move away. And there was the potential to do that, because where I was going down, there was a pavement with a field at the side of it. Someone could have stepped onto the grass, but there was no attempt to do that. So it looks like people are not going around in groups from other households so much. But when they do come across someone that's a stranger, they're just going straight past them. They're not really observing the 2 metre thing there. And again, it's just really evidence of the fact that people are going, okay, well, I think what that is, it's people think to themselves, well, all right, you know what, we do need to follow this guidance. And they sort of understand the reason, but they're still probably thinking, this won't affect me, this is really affecting the vulnerable. I am putting myself through all these privations, I'm changing the pattern of my life so that we protect the vulnerable, which is nice. But what the data shows and what the science shows is this does not just affect the vulnerable. It is more likely, but that's the same with anything. That is the same with anything. It is more likely to affect the elderly. What we have here is a plague. It's an actual plague. We just have better medicine now to help deal with it. But that's only as good as those using it. At the moment in the UK, the government is doing everything. It's showing frustration that people aren't following its guidance, and yet it's not doing enough to show people how serious this is. We're not testing enough. Because we're not testing enough, the number of cases looks artificially low. Massively artificially low. So people are a bit glib about it. We haven't yet seen the explosion in deaths. They're climbing all the time. And even those death figures, apparently, according to Newsnight on the BBC, those figures are being suppressed as well. Apparently, and I've not seen a minister say this directly, but, Newsnight are not going to lie about this. They will have heard this from a minister or a senior official within the Department for Health, you would imagine. And they are reporting that the government have said that they are not, when someone dies of coronavirus, they're not going to add them to the figures, the official figures, until they have the permission of the victim's close family. Well, where the hell has that come from? So we've definitely got the number of cases being suppressed. If we've got the number of deaths being suppressed as well, I mean, for goodness sake. And then when you look at the fact that, if these people, the media and so on, keep talking about the number of cases in the UK, utterly worthless number. Utterly worthless, because we do not know what the number of cases in the UK is. We know it is many, many orders of magnitude, well, many times more than the value, the official value, because the official value is just for testing those who almost certainly have it, or certainly have something serious enough to give them pneumonia or something. We're supposed to be stepping up testing, but it hasn't happened yet. And I take nothing for granted that the government announces until it has actually happened, and it hasn't. Even in other countries, they're not, it's almost like very few countries are actually taking the World Health Organization advice seriously. South Korea seems to be one of the very, very small number that does. And it's only places like that where you can actually look at the data and take anything meaningful from it. You know, this is serious. Health experts have explained that it is serious and people need to take it seriously. And people also need to accept that you cannot look at a chart and infer things from it if you do not have a high level of statistical knowledge, because statistics, hence Disraeli's statement, there are lies, damn lies in statistics. Statistics can be used to tell you anything you like, because if you don't understand it, it's a bit like being shown a book in a language you don't understand. They can tell you that it means whatever they say it means, and you will be none the wiser. Don't try and think that you can read statistics if you are not a mathematician. But anyway, there we are. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, then please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.